Hello fish friends, my name is Justine, I'm the Mermaid seamstress, and today I will be showing you how I made this beautiful flower and shell crown. So this project was originally intended to be part of Rusalki Halloween costume, which is a type of siren from Russian folklore. Unfortunately, I got sick and so was unable to complete the costume and unable to release this video for you guys. So I apologize, but you can use it for your future crown projects. It starts off very simply with some pre-wrapped wire that I got at Hobby Lobby. This was in the floral section. It's a pretty thick gauge wire, but it's also pretty flexible. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to braid it. So I started off with one piece that was kind of twice the length, approximately around my head, and then one more piece that was a single length of my head, or just a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make this adjustable, because my original intention was to wear it over a wig, and I like making it adjustable so that you can wear it a bunch of different ways. And I'm starting with a base that I actually already made. I didn't realize that I had already made. And I'm just going to thread the doubled length through. The doubled length is a little bit longer than the single length, so that when I braid it, it's not going to be used up completely. So the reason why I braid this instead of just maybe wrapping it around or making it thicker or doubling it up is because braiding is going to keep it light. It's going to keep it flat, which means that you're going to have a wider base to glue your flowers onto without making the crown super duper bulky. Plus, if you ever see the inside of the crown, this is going to look a lot prettier than just a mass or tangle of wire, in my opinion. With this wrapped wire, I could have even worn this as like a fairy circlet or something like that just by itself, because it looks kind of like braided vine. It's really pretty. And I'm just going to finish it off by clipping those raw edges. You really want a good pair of wire cutters so that you make sure you don't have any sharp edges in this part. And then later I'm going to use a ribbon and thread through the back of that. So this is what I mean about making it adjustable, is I can literally wear it however I want because it has those open loops at the back. I unfortunately lost some of the footage, which has been happening a lot to me recently. I lost some of the footage of me making this crown. I actually lost a pretty good chunk of it, but my strategy is kind of to glue various pieces starting from the back and moving my way around to the center front of the crown. This way I feel like I get a really even distribution of things, of flowers. I also want to make sure that I'm cutting the flowers off close to the stem. This might change if you want the flowers to stick out a little bit, but I always kind of test the placement of them first, then glue them and trim them to size. It's a little bit easier to place them if they're already in a little bit bigger bunches. So that's how I decide to do it. So this is the almost completed crown. I said I missed a lot of footage, but basically I'm just showing you again that I started from the back, and I started with the longer sprays, and then the leaves, and then the bigger flowers, and then the smaller buds, and then the pearl details. So that's kind of the order in which I placed things on. And then to finish it off, I actually added some more of those lighter green leaves to it afterwards from the back, and I usually don't do that. So now I'm just going to add some more final details. So I'm looking for blank spots, and a good strategy not to get glue everywhere on the crown is actually to place the glue directly onto the object you're gluing down, as opposed to placing it on the crown itself. That way you get a really precise placement of the bud or the shell, and you're not spreading glue everywhere or having extra glue spots on the crown. It's a lot easier to control. So for these shells, these reminded me kind of freshwater shells. Rusalki are kind of water spirits and kind of like mermaids. They're supposed to be, some legends state that they're young women who are in and around bodies of water, and they drown people for vengeance. Some claim that they're like water goddesses. Some claim that they change with the seasons. So I'm kind of just adding a bunch of different stuff to this outfit. Since it is going to be, or was going to be, for a fall type costume, I liked the reds and the pinks, and I kind of wanted to look like possibly there was ice crystals forming on it, but I also wanted it to have water theme to it. So you can see that I'm adding a bunch of these really tiny little shells, and basically what I'm doing when I'm adding them is I'm looking for empty spots. It's really easy, I found, for crowns like this to look kind of crowded and overdone just because you keep adding stuff. So a really good strategy to avoid that is look for empty spaces and be mindful of, and like hold things up first. So hold them up to the crown itself, see how that's going to look, and make sure that you're able to pull anything off that you don't like. And I find that going back to the strategy of adding just a little bit of glue at a time really helps that, because then you don't have to scrape off a huge glob of glue. It's just a little glob of glue that you added to hold the piece in place. And so you can see, you know, sometimes I do have to add a little bit more glue in order for it to hold, but on the whole, I'm just adding glue to a little bit of the shell. I'm remembering to place it first and see how it looks, and then I'm putting it in place. And I'm actually decorated, I think there's only 6 of those little shells on the total crown, which seems like not very much, but the way they're placed, they do add a really cool, like, little detail accent to the crown itself, which I really liked. And it tied in more of that kind of freshwater feel. Maybe they're freshwater snail shells. I don't know quite the story, but they kind of match the pearls really well. And so then I'm just going to add some of these half shells as well. And again, I'm going to place them first, figure out how I want them to sit, and then I'm going to put the glue on and hold them in place. Hot glue, you know, can sometimes be kind of flexible and weak until it's kind of set. So I do have to hold some of these larger, heavier shells in place for a little bit longer, just to make sure that they sit how I want them to sit. And sometimes even I needed to glue a little bit more reinforcement on the sides or even the backs to stick them to the leaves. I think I do that with this shell a little bit, just so that I make sure that it stays on. This is a really high heat hot glue gun, which I find has a better, they stick a little bit better. It's also sticking to fabric, so there's more texture. Hot glue will stick to rougher textures a lot easier than it will to smoother textures like plastic. So keep that in mind when you're picking items or picking how you want to glue items on. It might be easier to glue them if you glue them onto the fabric parts rather than the smooth plastic stems of the flowers. So that is almost the finished crown. I added a couple little more details. I think I added a few rhinestones here and there, but overall that was just the finished crown. And this crown is actually surprisingly sturdy because we used just enough glue and we used that solid braided base. It makes it really durable, and it's actually quite heavy. So I feel like if all of these pieces were waterproof, which unfortunately the buds are made of paper, so I can't really swim with this, but if they were all waterproof materials, I could definitely swim in something just because the structure is so firm. But this would be amazing if you added more variation. If you wanted to make just shells, you could do that too and use it for all kinds of photo shoots. So I actually decided, because originally it was going to be paired with this really long wig, that I was going to make an additional set of hairpins to kind of go down the wig and add a little bit more interest and bring a little bit more weediness to the crown. So as you can see, inside these wires, inside these little fake plants are some wires to make sure that they're stiff. So I basically just cut them off from the wires so that they're floppy and flexible and not stiff when hanging in the hair. And then I just glued them piece by piece with some other shells and pearls to bobby pins, and I had a perfect little set of hairpins to add to the wig, and it just adds a lot of texture and interest. You can also use these in your everyday look. So I wish you the best of luck in making your own, and if you want to share with me any crowns that you make based on this tutorial, go ahead and share them with me on my Instagram or my Twitter. My Instagram is at the Mermaid Seamstress, and my Twitter is at Mermaid Seams. And you just tag me in a photo, and I would love to see what you guys have made. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you all in my next video, and hopefully we'll be up to 300 subscribers. So stay tuned for an awesome giveaway chance. More details will be in a future video, so look forward to that. Bye, fish friends.